In this video, I'll show you how to create a Turnitin assignment. There's two ways you can do this, and I'll first of all show you the main way that you would be doing it. I'm going to go into the Playpen course, where any teacher can create activities and test Moodle resources before you use them in your own live courses. First, you'll need to turn editing on. So click the green button in the top right hand corner, and then in the section where you want to add the Turnitin assignment, click Add an Activity or Resource. If you work your way down the activities list, you'll see Turnitin Assignment 2, and that is the activity that we're going to be adding. So click the button and then the Add button. When the assignment loads, it's first of all worth clicking the Expand All button. And what this will do is ensure that you can see all the options that you can set. So we'll give it a name. The summary is a description that the students can read at the top. And we have the option to set any submission type, or we can choose only uploading files or typing text directly into a box like the one which appears above. In most cases, you would be choosing file upload as the submission type. Number of parts can be set for up to 5 parts. So this is useful if you have a draft, a second draft, a third draft, and a final copy. In this example, there is a draft and a final copy, so I'm going to set the number of parts to 2. It's worth leaving the maximum file size as high as possible. That way, if there's any pictures in the students' submissions, then the file size will be accepted. You can also specify which types of files are received. It's worth leaving that set to yes. Now, originality reports will show the students how much their response is a match to the Turnitin papers that have been submitted. So you do want your students to see the originality reports. However, you can change that to no if needed. Normally that's set to yes. These are all defaults, and we'll just move past those, past grading, and we now have our parts to the assignment. So earlier I specified that there would be 2 parts. So here I will say draft, and part 2 will be final. What you now need to do is go through and carefully select dates and times. Start date means that after this date, students can start submitting the draft paper. Due date is the cut-off time. After the due date expires, students will be submitting their work late, or they will have no option to submit it at all. Post date. This is very important because the post date allows students to see your comments. And this is very important if you are using the peer mark or the grade mark function in Turnitin, which we'll look at later. So post date is very important, and normally I would set that to 5 minutes after the due date. So if the due date is the 28th of August at 9:04, then my post date I would make about 4 or 5 minutes later. And that means that students can go back in and they can review your comments. If you need a few days to check student work, then of course you can set that further back. The same applies for part 2, and we've named it final, and you'll be setting a start date from the date they can submit the work, the due date being the date that it's due to come in, and the post date being the day that they can see your comments or any final marks in the system. Now in the next section, this is very important. Allow submissions after the due date. By default, this is set to no, and I always make this yes. What that means is that students can still submit their work late. If you don't change that to yes, then you'll have to chase up the assignments yourself. And this way the students can still upload their assignments even though they're late, and you will see a red time indication for any student who submits their work late. So it still stands out in the system as being a late submission, but you don't have to chase the work up yourself. All of these other settings are quite normal and default. However, depending on what you're trying to achieve through your Turnitin assignment, you may choose them. You may choose to change those settings. When you're ready, at the very bottom, click Save and Display. Having done that, you can now see my Turnitin test assignment. We have two tabs here. We have the draft, and this is the final. So in this video, we've covered how to create a Turnitin assignment, how to work your way through the settings, and what it looks like once you have created one.